Hi, everybody. This is your Deep Rooted podcast, and I am your host, Ornella, aka Nelly, aka Cameroonian _ Beauty15 for Instagram, and Ornella and Joya for Facebook. We hope you enjoyed our last episode last week. And also feel free to check out the previous episodes. Again, this is your host Ornella. I'm really happy to be here today, and thank you for being here, also listening and watching. As always, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and let us know what you think, what you would want us to talk about. We're open to anything. But before I go on, let me introduce the rest of the cast. And to the far left of me is the beautiful.
To the leftist of me.
Hi everyone, my name is Aisha and I'm one of the hosts. You can follow me on Instagram at ishkapish215, I think. And on Facebook, my name is Aisha FYO Powell. And to the right of me.
What's going on, y'all? I already know who it is. It's your boy. I'm usually on the far right, but gotta take me out of my comfort zone. It's like, nah. It's your boy Marquise, YC everyone. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YC_610. Also YC_Q&A. You can also check me out on YouTube at the same thing, YC_610.
What's going on, everybody? It's boy Anubis. You can find me on Anubis MN on Instagram, as well as Midnight Entertainment LLC on Instagram. We got a special guest in the building today with us.
Ooh, yeah. We got a first.
I want to introduce a good friend of ours, Joe. Let the people know who you are and what you do.
Oh, how you doing, man? Joe, the friendly neighbor. I guess you can follow me on Brown King 69 Instagram. I'm just here to share thoughts.
Awesome.
Nice to meet you.
All right.
Okay, so what are we talking about today?
Get the juicy one.
Marquise is ready for this one.
I know. I think we need like
some
theme music for when we picking. I be looking. I be trying to cheat.
Please be good.
Well, bad for the face, but social hierarchy. This is a good one. Sorry, I made the face. The social hierarchy.
Okay.
Go ahead. So,
anybody's juice is flowing.
Let's see, social hierarchy. That's a good one.
We could start with a definition first, because some people might not even know.
So we want Webster's definition?
We can go Webster's and then we can do our own version.
Right.
So what is the Webster's definition of social hierarchy? I don't know that one. But I think a social hierarchy is pretty much just it's like a status type thing when it comes to, I guess, the way that people are privileged, whether it be, their job positions,
their job, schools,
business, things like that. And there's definitely a social hierarchy, especially you got your your homeless, your poor, your lower middle class, upper middle class, high class, and then your elites or whatever. That can be considered a social hierarchy, but that's pretty much kind of what we live in right now as it comes to social hierarchy, things like that. Because there's no monarchs or anything like that, one person following the order of a queen or whatever. But even with that, they even have a social hierarchy.
We got to remember, with corporations actually being the ones that sit in and create laws and everything, they're actually already at the top of the social hierarchy.
Yep.
They're already at the top.
Yep.
And then you have your actual lawmakers and the president. And then you have your representatives, like Congress, your representatives, and then it would be, people that are voting for these representatives, which is basically, you know, the high class, the middle class, and the low class.
The taxpayers, pretty much. And then you got the people, and then believe it or not, like, then the police is supposed to be under the people because we pay them. So.
I don't think it would.
No, it doesn't work.
Where they supposed to belong in the social hierarchy. They're supposed to serve the populace instead of, like, you know, serving.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we kind of got out the way, like what the social hierarchy is, like, well, one of the things that I did want to talk about is, like, you know, before the middle class used to be like defined, but it seems like now, especially like with inflation and like battling with the minimum wage, and even like for certain jobs they don't really want to pay you well, the middle class is starting to like get lower and lower. So it's like kind of hard. It's like a thin line in between like the low class and the middle class, to be honest. Because like, yeah, for like the average family, it's not even like at that $60,000 line. I don't even think that, you know, that's really, because you can't really afford the middle class life making that much, because it's a struggle, especially with like the rent, car payments, and everything like that. Like it's a lot.
The average middle class life, would that be considered like wife, husband, 2 kids, 2 cars?
Pretty
house?
much, yeah. Like if you were looking at like the
typical family.
Yeah, a typical family.
Yeah.
Like they expect a lot more out of middle class. So like now middle class would kind of be considered like 100,000, like a family together, not like one person, because that's like a little bit different. Yeah. But like for a middle class family, they expect a lot more, and that's what like the social hierarchy is changing a lot from what it used to be. You know, I guess in the early 1900s. You know, so like it's kind of really hard, especially in this day and age, because you know, gas goes up every year, and that fluctuates. And right now we're having this thing
also
with
the cost of living.
Yeah, the cost of living is forever on the rise. But like it's crazy
true.
because even though they know that like the cost of living and everything else is going up in life, why are we sitting here having a battle with them about a minimum wage being $7.50? You know, because
a lot of that can just go like a lot of different ways. Like,
it can go a lot of different ways. But I mean, if you're really going to think about someone being able to live, and then think about like if someone already has a child, or if someone has other like obligations and responsibilities, do you really think that $7.50 is reasonable for a minimum wage?
I mean, if you want to control somebody, of course.
And one thing that I've also discussed a lot was the concept of redlining, and how like black people aren't able to like, you know, get loans to buy houses in certain neighborhoods. So like it kind of confines us to like certain areas, and
not only that, it's also more difficult for black people to get even business loans to start businesses.
Yeah.
For some reason, no matter like how good their credit is, like some banks won't even give you like a punk ass $10,000 loan. Like,
it's not going to hurt, but yeah. Well, one thing that I'm not like, when the topic came up, I was like, oh Lord. Because being here in America, coming from like, you know, my home country, which is Cameroon, for those of you who don't know.
Cameroonian beauty.
Yeah. But yeah, like things are very different, and of course like one thing that I always find myself struggling with is understanding the many battles that people here have to face. And kind of like, and I can't help but compare it to like the way things are back home, because that's what I know, that's what I was born into.
I mean, that's the best thing you can compare it to.
Yeah, and also like one thing that I'm like, you know, that I've like struggled with is taxes, and how like taxation happens to like, you know, everybody from like, you know, it doesn't matter what your background is. You get taxed the same as like people who make who make 10,000 or like 10 times more than like what you do, which is not okay, and that's why people are only getting poorer Like,
but the taxes for like the taxes for us are going to be a lot, like the percentage that we get taxed is a lot more than someone who makes more money.
Yeah.
And I know that like it kind of makes sense because they make more money, but I feel like it still should be the same.
no, well, I feel like they should be taxed
They should
more.
get hit more.
32% of my money, you need to get hit 32% of yours,
Well,
so
they
we
should
can
get
talk
hit
about
more
lessening
because
it
they
for
make
all of
more.
us.
And that's why people are like, sinking into poverty the way they are, because people who are making money and can afford to pay more than like those who
They're complaining.
yes, and they're not, sometimes like they even find ways around not paying taxes, which is not okay. Like if I'm working, for example, at a McDonald's and I'm making this much per paycheck, I shouldn't be paying the same amount of taxes as somebody who is working or who doesn't even have to work. Like his money just keeps rolling as he's sleeping. That's not okay. And it's one thing that I really like, well, at least like in one of my classes we've been talking about how taxing everybody the same way is not the way to go. Like people who make less, that should be a factor into that should factor into how much they get taxed.
The whole thing about taxes is like you're paying them back money that you work for, that they paid you, and you gotta pay them back. It don't make no sense.
Yeah, it's.
What about you, Joe? What's your view on social hierarchy?
And how things have changed.
When you think about it, it's a choice, because you have a choice to change it, you have a choice to complain, you have a choice to settle. A lot of times people choose to settle because it's the easiest way.
Yeah.
So it's easy to say, if I have this amount of money, and people, we tend to do that. If you have a nice car, then you're better than me, subconsciously, right? Because you have a better car than I. You have a bigger house than me, you subconsciously are better than me because you have a bigger house than I.
Yeah.
So what happens when people say, a lot of humble people who earned it and got it will say, well, it's just a home. Actually, I wish I didn't have it because of the pressures and the judgment that comes with it. They said, I'd rather have a small house, have the money, and people don't judge me because I want to be just like everyone else.
The perception.
The perception.
Yeah.
Right. So then you try to get other people to feel that way. No, I earned it. Let me boast and let me show what I have.
Right.
And then and subconsciously you keep your people down because those people who don't have the opportunity tend to sit there and feel like, well, I'm going to stay down. This is all I can get. So I tend to stay on the bottom. And then you and glamorize those who have it. So then, so it's always a separation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's and it's hard because a lot of times you teach your children you want better, but then what is better?
Yeah.
Right.
It's our responsibility to teach our kids is not the material thing, but the quality of life that you're looking for. And then you tend to change the social hierarchy then, because now the lines are blurred. Now you have more black people traveling like white people used to. So now the lines are starting to blur now. Who's on top?
Yeah.
Changing the narrative.
Change the narrative. But then we have to be careful because when we change the narrative, we tend to do what they do. I'm better than you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm better than you because I'm doing what they did. So do we change the narrative or we still put them on a pedestal because we're with the Joneses now?
Right.
That's so
That's the
deep.
thing. I always talk to my friends about that too. Just like keeping up with the Joneses, like trying to be like everybody else. Like, I mean, like, cause like even all of us, like we go into it, like especially like me being, being in the music, want to be a rapper. Like you catch yourself wanting to be like other rappers. Like you wanna, you know what I mean? Cause you see them being successful at what they do in their craft, but I mean, you see how they doing it. You know what I mean, they might be rocking the 5-6 chains, spending $30,000 on chains and jewelry.
You start emulating that also.
Yeah, so now you try and keep up with them. I'm trying to go out and buy jewels and spend this type of money on music videos and all this other and all these fancy clothes and stuff. No, now I'm living out my means, and now in the long run, I'm screwing myself over, and I'm taking losses because I'm trying to keep up with somebody like on a financial level. Or
Didn't
like,
J. Cole sit there and put a track out about that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
the middle child
Yo,
is like explaining that.
It's like, listen, man, you know, but see that separates the person who's doing it for themselves, or they're doing it to put themselves on a pedestal, to put themselves in a social class.
And that's why I like when you talk about that, like the line when you be like, my Bentley is dirty, my sneakers is dirty.
Yeah.
And that's how I like it. All of y'all still on my dick.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's
Like, I got a Bentley, you know what I mean? It's dirty. Like, y'all, like, it's a car. Like, at the end of the day, like.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that's why I feel
And
like.
at the end of the day, I'm still me. I'm still doing what I'm doing, and y'all still on my dick. Like.
That's why
That's
I
how I
feel we as a race need to figure out we need to invent our own standards, what we want, like, you know, our community to look like, what we want to be portrayed when you know, what we want people to see, or like ourselves, like even like in our own community, what do we want to see and what is acceptable, because I feel like people these days are big on trends. Whatever is trendy, that's where everybody goes, you know. And that's not always the best thing. Like I feel so strongly about this. We as a people need to like create our own, you know, level of standards. Like, and like it doesn't, like you said, like we don't always have to, like, you know, do it like the white man. What is our create something that is ours and go from there, like, and teach our children to aspire to.
And to do
the
that,
same
I think
thing.
we need more of like our own platform, for which is not being controlled by other people.
Yeah, we definitely
Yeah,
need
by
to
other
create our own
people's agendas.
platforms.
I think it's more than just like the platform. I think like that goes back to how Black Wall Street was, where there were black banks, it was black like businesses, it was a lot of black people putting everything together, and like that would definitely help with the social hierarchy, especially in the black community, because a lot of people don't know how to pull it together, and I feel like when we don't have to
You just
depend,
need all black
when you don't have to depend on another culture or another race to build yourself up, I feel like that would definitely help people strengthen themselves and also help people economically too.
I think we need an all black army.
Yeah, and people.
It's an army of
like,
black.
let's be honest. Let's be real. It's time. Like, it's been time to do this. Like, nobody but ourselves is going to come in and be like, oh, black people, let me do this for them. It's up to us to like find it in ourselves to want better, to do better. Like, let's not play into, you know, whatever the white man or whoever wants us to play into. Like, let's stand up and want more, do more. Don't just
Expect
like, you know, don't just be swayed by whatever trend, what's the new trend tomorrow, and that's whatever wagon you're hopping on. Like, you need to want better and
We
do better.
gotta keep
you know?
ourselves set at a higher standard than what we have been.
Yeah, and like you said, it's so easy to just settle for like a mediocre life, or like settle for less because it takes less work to get there.
It's more comfortable and it's less work.
Yeah, so like let's get up. Like, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, or like be tired at the end of the day, because you know exactly what you want, you know what you're working towards, and you know that it's worth it. I feel like that's so important.
Not only that, you gotta take the constructive criticism.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, it's to make you better. It's not to like bring you down. So like, even if like, I mean, it's me and my brother, I'm doing some shit he don't like, and he straight up tell me like, yo, bro, like, you gotta tighten up. Like, you gotta get on your shit. I don't like how you doing this. Like, we don't need to be on that type of time. Like, I'm not. It shouldn't be a type of like shit. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, forget whatever you talking about. Like,
Yeah,
like you gotta take that. You gotta take it in, because like you gotta understand, like, these is
wounds, especially from where we come from. Like, so before we end this segment, I want to leave everyone with this. We have like most of us have the For the Culture app, and every day we're getting like, you know, wonderful words of the day, like spoken words of the day, proverbs of the day, quotes of the day. And with today, it's amazing that we're speaking on this because, even though we're dealing with the social hierarchy and how things are now, and for us to better ourselves in it, like everyone was saying, like we're filled with pride. We're prideful people, especially after everything that we went to, like everything that we strive for now, everything that we can possibly do. Something that stuck out to me with the quote of the day was that if you are filled with pride, you will never be open to wisdom. And that's what we actually need more of.
Yeah.
So for our viewers, for our listeners, join the discussion. Comment, like, subscribe, use the donation feature.
Yeah. Let us know what you think.
Let us know.
And now we're actually going to have a word from our sponsors. And at this time, please, like he said, subscribe, like, share, let us know what you think.
That bell
and
notification.
hit that bell notification so you know every time an episode comes out. And thank you for being with us today.
We'll be back with the next segment.
Yep.
Visit the Midnight Entertainment store on teespring.com. Take advantage of free shipping on all items with promo code RECONNECT in all caps. Take advantage of our sale on all new merch from smartphone cases to brand new Deep Rooted Podcast apparel and accessories. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned to the rest of the episode. Subscribe to the channel below. Hit the bell notification to stay updated on all Midnight Entertainment content coming soon.
What's going on, everyone? We back with our Entrepreneur of the Week, a segment where we highlight an entrepreneur or black business. Today, we want to sit here and give another shout out to Elite Capital Group. They're young entrepreneurs building a Black Wall Street here in Philadelphia. They host events where they get other entrepreneurs and business owners together, where they do networking, they do funding, but they also share knowledge on how the best way to manage your business. And if you need anything, all you have to do is reach out to them.
Great insight.
Great insight.
Spread awareness about my company and my brand, and it was a wonderful event. I had so much fun. We got to look over Philadelphia.
Imagine 50, 100, 150 of us flipping this city around and changing it for the better. Not only becoming financially independent for yourselves, but doing it as a community.
Be on the lookout, come down, get your network on. Yeah. So, Elite Capital Group, another shout out to what's going on. We're back with Deep Rooted Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our last segment, and give a lookout for the Entrepreneur of the Week, Elite Capital Group that we shout out. So, what we're going to do, we're going to select another topic, and we're giving our guests the honors of doing it.
Alright, drum roll.
Alright, let's see what we're gonna do here. Alright. Oh god. Good gracious, how small you can get. Shit.
Can you see it?
Alright. Africans versus African Americans.
I was praying for the one I called it.
Alright, so why don't you
get started off?
Did I not speak this into existence?
Yeah,
Okay. We're gonna talk about this later, but now
Black magic on.
Africans versus African Americans. It's something that I've been wanting to get into, and I've been literally speaking on it with everybody on this couch from the beginning. Okay, so I'm really excited that we're talking about this. So one thing that I want to address is the beef, or I don't want to say hatred. Hatred is too strong of a word. The misunderstanding. That's the right word between Africans and African Americans. As a person of African descent, I was born in Africa. I lived there for 15 years. I came here when I was 15 for school. I understand. I've come to understand both sides. having lived here, I can't exactly, I do identify as African, but with all the issues and, the police and social and political stuff, I have to, also embrace that African in America, mindset. So it's something that I wanted to get into. For Africans, I don't want to be the spokesperson for all the Africans. So this is just a young girl from Cameroon's opinion. I feel like mainly the misunderstanding comes from the fact that us African believe that African Americans have it easier than us, which after being here for so long, I do understand that that's not necessarily the reality. So don't be in the comment section being like, hey, I understand the struggle too, I understand the struggle. And from the African Americans' perspective, there's this sense of lost identity that we as African don't necessarily think about, because we do have a lot of struggles. We battle poverty, famine, pandemics, HIV pandemics, and cholera, and all those things that we're not necessarily in touch with our mental health. And it's sad to say, we're not very touchy-feely and emotions type of people, because we have better things to worry about, which I think, in my opinion, we have to address that emotional side and mental side in order to, get deep into some of our issues, because going through slavery and colonialism is not a small thing, and we do need to address it, but that's a topic for another day. First, let's talk about let's talk about the topic. I want to hear from you guys, and I kind of said what I felt was the issue for a little bit, but I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear it. Let me hear it.
Alright. I don't know, a lot of my run-ins with the whole African versus African American thing, it's I don't know, just most native Africans just seem more rude to me. I guess because like you said, it's just a lack of empathy, just the way to control and interact with people on the emotional level is I guess more difficult for you guys. So that explains a lot of things, and then sometimes it's just I don't know, it's just a sense of they think they're better than us because they're from over there, or us as African Americans feel us inferiority, because
identity.
Because it's a lack of culture, and a lot of black people don't know their culture, where they came from.
And you want to know.
Yeah, you want to know. You don't want to just be on the narrative oh yeah, my people, my great grandparents were slaves and all that stuff. When a lot of black people's family didn't come even on slave ships, they was already here.
Yeah, and I understand. I've had enough conversations with people from African American people to know that it goes deeper than that. I said the first episode, I think my ancestor was the king of our tribe. So whenever, and he's in history books in Cameroon and stuff like that. So I can go on Google, and you can too, NJOYA Kingdom or Bamoon Kingdom, and Google, and there is my whole ancestry, and most of you guys, a lot of you guys can't do that. And something that I always took for granted, or not for granted, but I never really thought about, I could just go and Google and be oh hey, this is my ancestor, but a lot of people can't do that, and it's this sense of something is missing.
We would have to go through
pay hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No, not that much, but we would have to sit here and go through parties that that have been created by our captives in order to figure out, where our genetics lie, where we come from.
Yeah, that's not right.
They can just change the narratives.
Ancestry.com, 23andMe. Like, why do we have to sit here and pay you, the people that, you know,
Captured
held us in chains? Even today, African Americans are actually prisoners of war in this country.
And not only that, to be honest, a lot of black people are low-key lazy and don't want to do the research themselves.
Well, if that's what their mindset is, fuck it.
It's just an honest, sad truth. Like,
if we want to sit here and look it up ourselves,
a lot of people won't put the work in to figure out like where they come from.
But I feel like, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second and say that when people are marginalized for so long, for as long as I'm not gonna say you because I'm black too, identify as black as well as African, hey, but when people are marginalized for so long, you just at some point you just give up. You're just and it's psychological. That's what I'm saying, being in touch with your inner self, and that's where the real work starts, because there are historically we talk about the reparations and financial repayments for all the humiliation, dehumanization, and sufferings that we've been through. But one thing that we don't talk about enough is the psychological stuff. People started thinking, white is better, foreign is better, let me bleach my skin so that I don't have to look this way. And all of this is psychological. So we need to address that.
That's what's been enforced. That's kind of what's been enforced, kind of subliminally on us, because even when you see TV promotions and stuff like that,
look how
especially the media now that everything is pretty much based around technology. You see ads on TV. Do you see any black couples together? Do you see black families? But you'll see interracial. They'll put interracial and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, for the Africans versus the African Americans, it can be on both sides, because it's a lot of not just Africans, it's a lot of other races and other it could be even Caribbeans that have this look at American people okay, they have it easier, not really knowing what the situation is. They think, okay, they have it easier, they're lazy. My parents told me to have 3 jobs for my whole life and work until you die.
It's not a different race, that's just a different ethnic background.
Yeah, it's different ethnic background.
All of us are actually the same people.
We're still black.
All of us are melanated people. All of
Mexicans,
us
y'all
are
niggas
people.
y'all niggas too.
But both of you have been saying, it's just how we've been projected to other countries, how we've been projected to other people. Because I'm sure you go to the Caribbean, you go to Africa, hell, for the melanated people that's in Europe, we're promoted as being super predators, as black identity extremists, as thugs. That's how we're promoted.
Rapists, murderers.
So they already developed that identity that's how black people in American are, and start separating themselves from it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's not the case, because how is it that Africa is promoted to us?
Yeah.
That is just
super duper poor third world country with a bunch of malnourished and little black kids running around half naked with no shoes on.
Yeah, and
that's all you
there's
see.
Nothing that I hate literally makes my skin crawl more than seeing a picture of a white woman or white man with a bunch of dirty little African children with no shoes on, as if they're going in there to
to make the world a better place.
Exactly, they're just doing that for other
they
people.
telling you to give them 89 cents a month.
Exactly, and a lot of times.
Look, why ain't y'all
pay for it?
Everybody give us 89 cents. Why don't y'all give them a quick 50,000 real quick?
But regarding the main issue, we're going to address white people later. Regarding the main issue, I've heard friends, and one of my African dance teachers, he's from Burkina Faso. He told me that one time he was on a train, and he's one of Burkinabe, the people, they're darker complexions, and he was spotted like on the train right away as being African, and also because he had like his scarification marks on his face. So these two African Americans kind of like spat at him and called him like all sorts of like names that I'm not gonna say on this podcast, and that's kind of like that was his interaction with African Americans. And honestly, I don't blame him for like feeling that way, but there's also like you also it's just fucked up, let's just say it like that, but that's not everybody, and one of my friends also said one time to me, because I was like I was with the Black Lives Matter and I was like supporting the movement, and she was like, don't we have enough problems as it is? Like, do these people even like try to find out what we're struggling with, or like try to support what we have going on? No, they don't. So why are you supporting them? This is what like one of my friends, she's African, also said to me. And like I can like I said, like it's really hard to be in my position, because I can see why Africans feel the way they feel, but I can also see why African Americans feel the way they feel. So I understand completely. I've been here for almost 8 years now. So like I've experienced some of the struggles, of being like African. Well, I'm African in America, which
like I got a lot of like African friends, or like other like black friends or melanated people from other countries. Like I got friends from Ghana, Nigeria. I got a couple friends from Nigeria, Jamaicans, where else? Cameroon, Haitians. Shout out my man France. He got a couple businesses. We can shout him out one of these days.
Yeah, for sure.
If he's not acting like a sucker, it's like I'm just playing. But but like it's definitely like I got a lot of like African friends, or melanated people from outside of America. Like, so like I don't have that issue, like, cause like I just understand like each of their struggles, like, and like each of these places has a story, like.
But how do you know it? Because you took the time
to listen. Yeah.
And what happens is a lot. You take the Africans, right? They know their history. To your point, you know your history. Yeah. It's passed down. It's very important to your family. Pass down the history and make sure it's accurate, right? So, but unfortunately, African Americans it lost its way along through slavery. That importance of passing history it started to dwindle because the family started to be fragmented, and they really broke it down. So the history was broken down, a little broken, misinformation, and after a while it's like, you know what? Well, I'm just going to focus on my family I create.
Yeah.
And then next, that family's broken up again.
Yeah.
So then in our minds, subconsciously, that's how we operate. So you find the bigger families who are successful because they made it important the family. Yeah. History of the family, what your grandpa did, what your aunt did, and every time you got together, those folklore stories came. Just like Africans. But the issue is Africans a lot of times get disgusted with African Americans.
Yeah.
Because it's like, don't you know where you come from?
But we don't.
Yeah,
but we don't. But then at the same time, laziness is like, they get frustrated, but then it goes back to the other topic we talked about as far as social hierarchy. And Africa, that's normal. You know what I'm saying? There's a class system. Listen, hey, you don't know who you are. You're just nothing. You're just the bottom of the barrel because you don't know who you are. So why should I even care? Right. Then you have African Americans who sit there and think, well, you come to my country, how dare you? To your point, to your friend who got spat upon because they don't recognize a brother who they're part of and recognize what you listen to. He's from. He recognize that and cherish it. No, but then we have a new generation of folk who recognize it, i.e. here on Deeply Rooted. Y'all talk about all the issues, trying to bring people back together, where you try to tie it together. You have to have the energy to understand and make people see.
The patience, the respect, the energy, like
Right.
you said. Everybody has a story.
And the culture,
Yeah.
and how it intertwines. We don't take the time to show how our cultures intertwine, and why it's important to pass it forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then
Like-
people fail to understand at one point in time it was all our culture. It was all one culture.
Correct.
And just to like give like some like one thing that I read recently while doing my research for one of my papers that I was writing is you don't really hear the voices of people, of Africans that have lost these people who are now African Americans. These were their brothers, their sisters, their children,
Exactly.
their husbands who were taken. So it's not like this, like, I don't understand, like, well, I do understand where the disconnect comes from, but originally these were families that were fragmented,
Exactly.
you know, and people were taken and, like, you know, put into these boats, and like most of them didn't even, well, not most of them, but a lot of them didn't even survive that boat ride, you know. Some of them even like would have rather die, you know, than to like become slaves, and that's where, you know, like the
So in a way, it's kind of like African Americans is like the kid trying to get the attention and respect and like the love from his dad, kind of.
Yeah,
Like
and
look at it like
find,
that.
you know,
Like
find
you
out
rebel
find
and
your
you act
roots.
crazy, you do all this stuff, and all you try and do is just get your dad to pay you some attention.
Yeah.
One of the
get
big
that.
things that we have been, and I'm sure everyone
You just
here,
want your dad to be a
and
dad.
everyone that's listening and watching can say the same for. One question that, you know, while we were learning about his story in school was that, you know, a question that we asked ourselves was that why didn't, you know, our African counterparts, why didn't the Africans help? What we have to understand is that they've been going through colonialism at the same time as us.
You were going to like the slavery stuff, you know, like
Mhm.
we were also, it wasn't easy on our end either, like damn.
And don't you, isn't there still like some people that are still being sold from Africa to this day?
Yeah.
Yeah, slavery
So
is still
like
going
that's
on in
something that's
Africa to
still
this day.
ongoing. So you can't really like that's one of the things that I kind of like was looking at, and I'm like, okay, how can they help us if it's something that's still ongoing in their country? Not saying that like you can't help us, because I'm pretty sure like
Because most people generally focus on their own problems. They can't sit here and worry about anyone else because they have their own problems going on.
Think about it. It's like two estranged siblings, you know, and where families in the system try to keep those siblings apart. You systematically they change their lives to the point where they forget or don't even know that they had a sibling until there's little hints and chips, clues, and like, you know what, I may have a sibling out there because they found a clue. And we're two siblings sitting there finding clues, and it's pointing in the right direction, but we're not trusting it. Why? Because we've been systematically separated. So now we're sitting there, we're not trusting it. Some people are trusting it, and prayerfully, we get to a point where we trust what we see and we unify. But that's the scary part. That's what they don't want. They want to keep the siblings estranged, so us, because once the siblings get together, the next you know, all the truths come out of what happened to the family. And the next you know, the control is not there no more. So you know, and so when you think about today, your responsibility of sitting there putting those pieces together, and sitting there actually putting the pieces together where other people can see the importance of being together.
That's a great metaphor.
Yes.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, and there's no longer the estranged siblings. And right now, that's where we are, where we at. We're trying to find each other, but the system's like, no, we gotta keep them apart.
And we're, and some of us are playing into it, unfortunately.
Exactly.
It's the game, man.
Exactly.
It's the game.
Because one sibling got a little bit more than the other sibling,
So
and
we're
that was
looking at each other like,
yeah. Hold on,
Hey, you're not gonna give me nothing.
Yo, you know what? We about to do something special also. Because we have our first guest on right now, what we're going to do, we're actually going to extend this episode. Because this is something deep, and this is something that needs to be spoke about. This is something that is going to reach a lot of people once they hear it.
yeah.
Because a lot of people feel this same way. a lot of people are wondering, like, you know, why is this a fragmented relationship, especially in nowadays, where we're getting back to our African roots. And one thing I do want to say, yes, we lost the identity of who we were, but genetically we never forgot, like, you know, who we were, because a lot of traditions that we still have, whether it's our dance, whether it's us doing our, like, hair and everything. Some things that we do, like in the hood, like pouring out a bottle and stuff for, like, you know, your dead homies, and so that's actually like what people in Africa generally done. This isn't something like new that we created. This is something that's in our genetics.
Yeah.
They say nothing
We
on this
never,
world
like,
is new.
Mentally, we forgot who we were, but genetically, we have not. So today, now in this day and age, we have a lot of people that are connecting back to their African roots, whether it's through alkaline diets, which, you know, people want to deem the term vegan, alkaline diets, whether it's dance, whether it's hair. We're going back to our African roots, and we're reaching back out. It was only a few years ago where in Ghana and Zimbabwe, they've been reaching back out to us African Americans to come home, because they see how America is doing us. Like I stated before, we're prisoners of war here. Yeah, that's what Social Security is. That's what
the thing
you know.
us
getting
like,
licenses is. That's actually a breach of, I want to say, your Fourth Amendment, whichever one is the pursuit of liberty and happiness. That's a breach of it.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, the way that the system is set up, like, do you have enough money to get back over there?
That's why they made it so hard. I won't say so hard, but that's why what they done. They glorified America and downplayed Africa because they wanted to make us believe there's nothing for us over there.
Yeah.
That is poor. The richest continent on this planet is somehow the poorest.
Yeah,
even with the embargo acts and
like,
everything that they have going on and everything.
Yeah, and with this mentality, I'm saying, like,
Africa has the most natural resources on the
planet. So much, like, I'm telling you, like, the mineral that we used to make cell phones, for example.
The
Democratic Republic of Congo has it all. They have it all, but yet they're suffering from Ebola epidemics. They're among the poorest countries in Africa. How? Everybody in the whole world has a cell phone. How does the country that holds the mineral for it is among the poorest? That doesn't make any sense. So, like,
gold and diamonds.
Yeah, like, so to get back to it,
those are the most used freaking resources in America.
Exactly. So, like, you have to wonder who is holding those resources, first of all. You know, because after the so-called independence of all of these countries, you still find British/French colonies that still hold the main, you know, still have hold on these resources. So the countries don't directly benefit from it.
That's where a lot of people got to start doing research. Like, and I asked the people that's viewing this, like, just research economic hitmen. Just research that.
Yeah.
And like that's a lot of reasons why, like, certain countries, like especially like in Africa, are like just stuck in like certain situations, are stuck as being third world countries. Like,
even though they really shouldn't. Like, we have so many natural resources, like so much comes from our countries, but yet we're the poorest. Like, and that's something that, like, whenever I start talking about, I just get a headache because I get mad all over again for all the ancestors.
For the African Americans, what I want us to realize is that we've been through a lot with slavery. No one, I can't say no one is taking that away from us, but that we know, that we're aware of. Especially when it comes to a lot that we've done with, like, the MOVE Act and then the Philadelphia MOVE Act, where, you know, the movement where we ended up getting bombed for the Black Panther Party, where it was designed, the Black Panther Party, Crips and Bloods, where they were designed to protect our neighborhoods, but we ended up getting demonized for it and attacked for it. And then also with Black Wall Street, where we separated ourselves and we were creating our own, like, we were building up economically for that. to be bombed also for that to be destroyed. We know our history. We have to realize also that Africa has gone through its history also, where that even though people want to say that we've been liberated, I want the Emancipation Proclamation. Only thing that did, people want to try to big up Abraham Lincoln. Only thing that did was transfer our ownership from slave masters to the government. That's the only thing that did. And then you have Africa. Remember with Africa, what we learned in school, each nation, each European nation went and dug their hands into the pot, say this now belongs to them, this now belongs to them. They did colonialism, they brought different types of religion to separate people. But then when they fought for their freedom, unlike America, who fought from its independence from, Britain? Mm-hmm. From Britain? How America is supposed to be its own independent nation. This never really happened with them. What they did is they created embargo acts and levied taxes on them, saying that because you fought for your freedom and you're no longer in the control of us, you owe us, you're indebted to us.
Yeah, and then
so these countries have to constantly pay.
Yeah, and would you can you imagine that 80% of Somalia, just as an example, 80% of their GDP per capita goes towards debt payment. So the country is left with basically 20% of its already scarce income to fend for for itself.
Literal
and that's where famines come in. And low economy, no jobs and no employment.
People get sick because they can't afford
exactly, and that's one thing that I was also saying. If these governments were better equipped to take care of their people, there wouldn't be so many outbreaks of AIDS and Ebola and all those illnesses just killing people, and all that stems from the fact that these countries have to pay crazy amounts of debt for what? For fighting for their freedom? For demanding?
Not even fighting for their freedom, for signing some piece of paper that they probably didn't even understand what the hell it said.
Yeah. It's truly sad. So I'm telling you people, just to kind of conclude this episode, we have our own struggles, but we have to understand that at the end of the day, we're all the same. We come from the same place, and we need to come together in order to, fight against, whoever tries to stand in the way of that. And it doesn't have to be violent. And I for one don't support any violence. So it comes from first of all being aware and educating yourself on what different people from different backgrounds are going through, so that you can better understand and cooperate on how to find a solution. So that's kind of my take on this.
So everyone, we hope you enjoyed this extended episode, and also we want to thank our guests today.
Thank you so much for the input. Thank you,
Joe.
So for the viewers and for the listeners, have another little special that I want to give you all on all of our merchandise.
Special.
If you enter the promo code RECONNECT, all caps, you get free shipping.
Hey.
What they getting?
Free shipping.
Free shipping. Not free shipping.
Free shipping on everything.
Yeah.
You better reconnect.
You hear that?
Yeah.
From the Deep Rooted Cast to you, peace and love. Don't forget, hit that bell notification, subscribe to us, use our donation feature. Any help that you are willing to offer, we accept. It counts.
We appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
We love y'all. Appreciate y'all existence.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Come join us again next week on Deeply Rooted.
Join the conversation. You have you literally have different platforms where you can reach out to us on.
Yeah.
It's not just Facebook, it's not just Instagram, it's not just YouTube. We're on Apple Cast, we're on Google Cast, as well as a few others. hit us up. We're responding.
Yeah.
Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the midnight. And from my family to yours, welcome to the community.
Thank you.
See y'all next week.